So yeah, okay. We'll keep it rolling. Those two again, largely expected, but still valuable in their own different ways. Um, we got the Reigns preseason roster on Wednesday. Something that is kind of expected as we get closer and closer here to their preseason camp down in this Coachella. Yep, Coachella Valley. Not too many surprises here. Obviously the Lynn Williams deal was big. You get Cassie Miller in that trade as a backup goalkeeper. Sorry, not goaltender. You mentioned Madison Curry. They signed her is really like the first move of the offseason in a way. Um, and then obviously Mason and Darlene. Um, let's see if there's anything. I think the main thing with these was the invites, right? Because Ryan Brown is still on season-ending injury. As she continues to work back, we saw her at training today. She's kind of just doing light jogging and work on her own. Which again, that injury is pretty serious. Her injury was really serious, right? Because it was knee surgery, but she had several things. It wasn't just one like ACL. I think there was more involved with that. Uh, do you remember? It's not super important to what I'm saying, but I
I
know it
don't
was like,
remember specifically, but she did injure it the first Summer Cup game, which I think was
yeah,
July.
it's
It's
brutal.
like typically a 9 to 12 month rehab,
Hmm.
and she didn't I mean, she was running around, but she didn't necessarily look like she was doing any particularly fast stopping or she wasn't involved in any drills, so I would expect her to still be a couple of months out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just nice to see, her on the pitch. I know Bella and I both were like, oh, we didn't ask about her, but I mean, you can kind of tell it's continuing to ramp it up. Um, Sam Meza obviously rejoined the team following her loan. Oh, this is part of it, and this could go in notes really, but Sophia Huerta will continue her loan with Olympic Lyon through June, and then Lily Woodham is in this release that we got is on loan with Crystal Palace through the end of January.
And this is
Um,
where Laura asked me not to get her in
This
trouble.
is where Bella got in trouble per se, because I don't remember what the exact wording was, but I think Laura said something about not getting Lily back till like the summer, right?
She said Sophia is coming back in the summer and Lily might come back in the summer.
Eh, and obviously that's different than what we got, and um,
Yeah, so we
well,
do, and Susie had already reported that they were pretty likely to extend her loan with Crystal Palace so that she could get playing time with Wales. Obviously, we talked about it last week. So not super surprising. Maybe that's a full-time move that they're trying to figure out for her, and that's why it's like a maybe she'll return in the summer. But regardless of, you know, maybe that's not totally official yet, it does seem like that's going to happen.
yeah, um, and it was just funny because you kind of asked to follow up, be like, "Hey, is this happening?" And Laura looks over at the PR guy, and the PR guy just shakes his head. So that was funny because after the presser, Laura's walking back to go with the other coaches, and just hear Laura yelling, "Bella, Bella, is that, talking to me? Gonna get me in trouble." Obviously, it's in good fun. We have a lot of fun covering Laura, and she has good banter with us, especially as folks who are around. So, I mean, it's funny too when that happens because during the obviously this is different. This is men. Men play sports. Did you know that? Um,
And
the the Sounders presser after they signed Jesus Ferreira. They got Jesus Ferreira, sorry, via trade. I want to be accurate in what I'm saying. The GM Craig Weibel just kind of started leaking stuff, and at the end he goes to the PR guy. He goes, "Do I have anything else that I need to leak?" And he was like, "Well, he kind of did it all." Anyway, we'll get back on track with the preseason roster. The four invited players, I can count four, as non-roster invitees to preseason camp. Two midfielders, two goalkeepers, Sophia Sedano, and Sally Menti, as well as goalkeepers, Macy and Necking. I haven't gotten a announcement guide pronunciation guide on these, so if I'm butchering these, I'm very sorry. I know Sally Menti saw my tweet about them, so I'm being perceived. Another goalkeeper is Maddie Prohaska. So interesting there, at least in the goalkeeper in both positions, because without Quinn, without Athens, you are a little bit short in the midfield department, at least in holding midfield. So I don't know how either of those players factors into that. And then the goalkeeper department. I mean, you'll need a third keeper after Maya Perez is gone and was largely your third keeper. So we'll see about that. Did you have any thoughts on the preseason roster before we go into talking about what we saw training today?
Yeah, I mean, Leslie Gallimore did say that she's pretty sure that the third goalkeeper signing will come from one of those two goalkeeper trialists. They haven't seen a ton of them yet, so obviously that could still change. But it's pretty likely that the third keeper they sign will come from that group of two, but they have sort of a couple months to figure that out. Um, the I asked her if they were thinking about signing any of the other trialists to sort of short-term deals while they wait for Ryan to return and Sophia. And she mentioned that they're pretty tight on roster space as is.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but they're also going to be inviting more players down when they're in Coachella in order to, make up for the up to 10 national team players that they could be missing
Yeah.
during the FIFA window. Because obviously that's G and Anna Maria and Haz and Jess and everyone. Lynn could also be gone. Claudia could be so many players who could be gone. So they just don't totally know. And I don't necessarily expect to see any of I certainly wouldn't expect to see a trialist signed to a full year deal. If anything, I think it would be someone who takes up a roster spot until Sophia returns from loan or until Ryan returns from injury. But even with those players out, they're pretty tight.
Yeah.
So I think they're being pretty tight with those decisions, and we might not see any additions. We might see them, but certainly, Leslie was very aware of the limited roster space they have.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last week, right? If they're gonna do more, and like you talked about the CBA and a player having to agree regarding their contract or a trade, right? Like they could do it. Would obviously they'll require folks who would either be wanting to move or willing, to relocate. So I don't know. It's interesting, and you talked about we talk about the Woodham loan currently and potential of that becoming permanent, maybe. Um, I don't know. It's interesting where they are right now because I think I talked about it last week. I was like, well, it feels like they haven't necessarily done too much, but a lot of them, I guess, is the younger players, and obviously with this club, that's not something they've really done in the past, so it's new to me. Um, I don't know. I kind of this is kind of a sidebar, and I hope it's not running too long in that regard, but I do like that, and this was a theme during the pressers today, right? These are players that will contribute. This leads us perfectly into the notes from the camp.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.